Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and welcome back to Black American Lineage. Thank you for your support. Thank you for going on this journey through our past and present. And today I'm going to talk about a man who went from being a slave to being a war hero. His name is Robert Smalls.
They called him a slave, but he hijacked a Confederate warship in the middle of the night and sailed himself to freedom. Yeah, you're not going to hear this in U.S. history class. His name was Robert Smalls, born into slavery in South Carolina. By 23, he was forced to work aboard a Confederate ship, the Planter. But he wasn't just watching the wheel, he was watching everything, learning the routes, signals, and codes. One night in 1862, while the white officers went ashore to sleep, Smalls made his move. He put on the captain's coat, raised the Confederate flag, and sailed right past 5 enemy checkpoints, with his wife, children, and several other enslaved people hidden on board. Then, he surrendered the ship to the Union. That ship had weapons, battle plans, etc. The Union called it a jackpot. I call it a revolution. Robert Smalls didn't stop there. He met with Lincoln, fought for the Union, then came back home, bought his former slave owner's house, and got elected to Congress. 5 times. All this, while the South was still trying to pretend people like him didn't exist. They erased his name from the books, but were putting him back in the spotlight. If you're here to unlearn the lies and tell the truth out loud, hit that follow. This is Black history. They never wanted you to know.
So, who was Robert Smalls? Robert Smalls was an enslaved man who escaped to freedom in a Confederate supply ship and eventually became a sea captain for the Union Navy. After the war, he became a successful businessman and politician, serving in both houses of the South Carolina legislature. He was elected to the United States House of Representatives in 1875, but was convicted of taking a bribe while in the state Senate and sentenced to prison before he was pardoned by the governor. Now, let's unpack that. This is one of the first Black congressmen coming out of slavery. So, the whole thing about him taking a bribe and being sentenced to prison sounds like a setup to me. That is what it sounds like. And that is why he was pardoned by the governor. But the whole idea was to smear his name. That they're very good at that. So that hasn't changed. Also, the way he outsmarted them with that gunboat and stole that gunboat and took it to the Union Army made him a hero. And they didn't want that to stand. They didn't want it to be said that a Black man had outsmarted them, stolen one of their Confederate boats and taken it to the Union Army. They didn't want that to be said. So they had to go back and mess his name up. Now, Robert Smalls was one of the original Black congressmen in the United States House of Representatives. He was born to a house enslaved person named Lydia Polite in Beaufort, South Carolina on April the 5th, 1839. The identity of his father is not officially known, but believed to be Henry McKee, the son of the plantation's owner. And we're not surprised by that. He was raised in the McKee house and enjoyed a little more acceptance in the community. At the outbreak of the Civil War in March 1861, Robert Smalls was hired as a deckhand on the Confederate supply ship, the Planter, a converted cotton steamer that carried supplies between forts in Charleston Harbor. Over the course of several months, Smalls learned all he could about navigating the ship and waited for an opportunity to escape. So this is a smart man. He saw his chance to take that boat and drive himself to freedom. And this is how he stole the boat and sailed himself to freedom. In the pre dawn hours of May 13th, 1862, while the white officers and crew slept in Charleston, Smalls and a crew of 8 men, along with 5 women and 3 children, including Smalls' wife and 2 children, quietly slipped the Planter out of Charleston Harbor. Over the next few hours, he successfully navigated the ship through 5 checkpoints, offering the correct signal to pass each, and then headed out to open waters and the Union blockade. It was daring and dangerous, and if caught, the crew was prepared to blow up the vessel. So it was dangerous what they were doing, but they weren't going to be taken alive. They were going to blow it up if they got caught. The startled crew of the SS Onward, the first ship in the blockade to spot the planter, almost fired on it before Smalls had the Confederate flag struck and raised a white bedsheet, signaling that they were surrendering. The ship's treasure of guns, ammunition, and important documents proved to be a wealth of information, telling the Union commanders of shipping routes, mine locations, and the times that Confederate ships docked and departed. The story of the courageous escape of Smalls became a national phenomenon and was one of the factors in encouraging President Abraham Lincoln to authorize free blacks to serve in the Union military. Congress bestowed a $1,500 cash prize on Smalls, and he went on a speaking tour, recounting his heroics and recruiting other blacks to serve in the Union Army. During the rest of the war, Smalls balanced his role as a spokesperson and Union Navy captain on the planter and the ironclad USS Keokuk. After the war, Smalls was commissioned as a brigadier general in the South Carolina militia and purchased his former owner's house in Beaufort, South Carolina. So he rose to a general in the army and he went back and purchased his slave master's house. Smalls started a general store, a school for black children, and a newspaper. His success opened doors in politics, and soon he served as a delegate to the state's Constitutional Convention and was elected to both the South Carolina House of Representatives and the state Senate. Between 1874 and 1879, he served in the United States House of Representatives, but his tenure was marred by partisan accusations that he took a $5,000 bribe while in the state Senate. In 1877, he was convicted of the offense and sentenced to 3 years in prison. He was released pending his appeal, however, and in 1879, he was pardoned by the governor. Yeah, that was nothing but trumped up charges to make him look bad. So his first wife died in 1883 and he remarried. He served as a U.S. Customs collector in Beaufort, South Carolina from 1889 to 1911 and remained active in politics. He died of natural causes in his Beaufort home on February 23rd, 1915, at the age of 75. And that was a long life for somebody during that time. But he was a hero. He was one of the first black congressmen in the United States, and he was a successful man. So this is Robert Smalls. May he continue to rest in peace. Thank you for listening. Have a good evening.